my name is Jessica. I tell about a new book named Roald Fantastic Mirror Fox. So last video we read from page 1 to page 29 on chapter 1 to chapter 5. This video we read from chapter 5 to chapter 10 or from page 29 to the page of the chapter 10. So now let's read this book. And last video it tells all you about, do you hear that, Mirror Fox? It's not over yet. We are not going home still. That was wrong. I'm dead as a dingbat. So that was the three rich but so mean man as Mr. Bean, Mr. Win, and the other Mr. are very fat. So that are all, but there has Mirror Fox and Mirror Fox and the small foxes. The family are going to be shot by Mirror Bandger, Mirror Bongus, Mirror Bean, and Mirror Buns, but we don't meet Mirror Bandger at chapter 1 to chapter 5. This video will read from page 29 to the last page. So we read from chapter 5 to chapter 10 to meet about a new character, Badger. So now let's read this book with me. And this book have 18. Next video we'll read from chapter 10 to chapter 18. So this video will read for 6 chapter. So we'll read from chapter 5 is The Terrible Tractors at page 20. Chapter 6 The Race at page 24. Chapter 7 We'll Never Let Him Go at page 29. And chapter 8 is The Foxes Began to Stir at page 31. Chapter 9 Mirror's Fox Has a Plan at page 34. Chapter 10 Bongus Chicken's House number 1 at page 37. So now let's read this book with me. Chapter 5 The Terrible Tractors. As the sun rose the next morning, Buckets and Buns and Bean was still digging. They dug a hole so deep you could have put the house into it, but they had not yet come to end of the fox's tunnels. They were all tired and close. Dang and blast, said Buckets, whose rotten idea was this? Bean's idea, said Bounce. Bongus and Buns had both stared at Bean. Bean took another swig of cider, then put the flags back in his pocket without offering in the others lessons. He said angry, I want that fox. I'm going to go that fox. I'm not giving it till I've strung it over my front porch. That of the dumpling. We can't get him by digging just for sure, said the fat Bogus. I've had enough to dig it. Buns, the little pot-bellied dwarf, looked at fat Bogus. I've had enough of digging. Buns, the little pot-bellied dwarf, looked up at Bean and said, have you got any of the stupid idea then? What the Beans? I can't hear you. Bean took a bath. We never even washes, as the result of the ear holes were clogged with all kinds of mud and wax of the bits of chewing gum and dead flies and stuff like that. This made him deaf. Speak louder, he said to Buns, and Buns shouted back, Got any more stupid idea? Bean rubbed the back of the neck with the dirty fine finger. He had a boiled comment there and has an inch. What was he need a new job? He said, is a machine. Mechanical travels. We've had him for 5 minutes with mechanical shovels. This was a pretty good idea, and the other two had to admit it. All right then, Bean said, taking charge. Bungus, you stay here and see the fox doesn't escape. Buns and I will go and fetch our Mr. Jenny. If he tries to get out, shoot him back. The long thin Bean walked away. The tiny Buns trotted after him. The fat Bungus stayed here where he was in the gun, pointing at the foxhole. Soon, two the enormous caterpillar tractors with mechanical shovels and the front of ends with some clunking in the woods. Bean was driving one, Buns the other. The machine was both black. They were murderous, brutal looking monster. Here we go then, shouted Bean. Death to the fox, shouted Buns. The machine went to work, beating large, huge mouthfuls of soil out of the hill and the big tree under Mr. Fox, and had his hold for the first time. Was beat tumbled in the mastics on all sides. Rocks were sent flying and trees were falling, and the noise was deafening. Down to the tunnels, and the foxes crouched, listening to the terrible changing and the banging overhead. What are we doing? Mr. Fox didn't know what was happening or what they were doing. It's an earthquake, cried Mrs. Fox. Look, and said the small foxes. Our tunnels got shorter. I can see daylight. They all looked around, and yes, the mouth of tunnel was only a few feet away from them now. In the circle of the daylight beyond, they could see two huge tractors almost on top of them. Tractors, shouted Mr. Fox, and mechanical saws. Dig for your life. Dig, dig, dig. Chapter 6. The Race. Now there was more desperate race. The machinist against the fox. In the beginning of the hill looked like this. After about an hour, as the machines bit away more and more soil from the hilltop, it looked like this. Sometimes the fox would gain little ground, for the clunky noise would go fainter, and the Mr. Fox would say, "We are going to make it. I am sure we are." But when a few moments later a machine would come back at them, at the crunch of the mighty shovels would go back and louder and louder. Once the foxes actually saw a sharp metal edge of one in the shovel cells for scraps and in the earth just behind them. "Keep going, my darlings," panted Mr. Fox. "Don't give up. Keep going." The fat Bungus shouted to Buns and Bean. "We'll get him for any moment now. Have you been caught sights for him yet?" Ben called back. "Not yet," shouted Bungus. But I think you are close. I'll pick up your buckets, shouts Buns. I like to chop him to pieces. But by lunchtime, the machines were still at it, and so were the poor foxes. The hill now look at this. The farmers didn't stop for lunch. They were going to kill the finish this stop. Hey there, Mr. Fox, yelled Buns, leaning out to his tractor. We're having to coming to get you yet. You've had the last chicken, yelled Bogus. You'll never be plowing around my farm again. A sort of madness had taken hold for three men. A tall, skinny, bred, a dwarfish, pot-bellied Buns was driving their machines like mechanics, raising motors and making a salvo dig at a terrific speed. The fat buckets were hopping about like a dwarves and shouting, "Faster, faster! My 5 o'clock in the morning, in the afternoon. This is what's had happened in the hill." The whole of the machines had dug into the crater of the volcano. It was such an extraordinary sight that crowds of people came rushing out from the surrounding village to have a look. They stood on the edge of the crater and stared down at Bogus and Buns and Bean. "Hey there, Bogus, what's going on?" "We're after a fox. We must be mad." The people George the laughed, but this only made the three farmers more furious, and there was abstinence and more determined than ever not to give up than until they had caught the fox. Chapter 7. We'll never let him go. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Bean switches up to the motor of the tractor and climbed down from the driver's seat. Buns did the same. Both men had enough, but they were tired and stiff from driving the tractors all day long. They are also hungry. Slowly they walked over to the small foxhole in the bottom of the huge crater. Bean's face was purple with rage. Buns was curious. The fox with dirty words, and they cannot be printed. Bogus came waddling up, Dane from the best of the filthy, stinky fox. He said, "What the heck, what you're doing now? I told you I don't do it." Bean said, "We don't let him go. We'll never let him go." Bounce declared, "Never, never," cried Bogus. "Did you hear that, Mr. Fox?" yelled Bean, bending low and shouting down the hole. "It's over, not yet. Mr. Fox, we're going to get home until we are strung out the death of the dingbats." "What happened?" The three men all shook hands with one another and swore the settlement bath into they would not go back to the farmers until the fox was caught. "What's the next move?" asked Bans, the parched leaf dwarf. "We're sending you for the whole of the fetch in up. So down and down, you miserable Mitch. Out for the beans, down you go. You miserable Mitch, not me," screamed Buns, running away. Beans made a sinky smile. When he smiled, you saw his rattlerless gums, and you saw more gums than teeth. "Then there's only one thing to do," he said. "We starve him out." Wilt came to the end. We'll have him too. So Bodges and Buns and Bean sent a message down to the farmers asking for 10 sleeping bag as supper. Chapter 8. The foxes began to starve. The evening 3 tents there were putting in the crafter on the hill, one for Buggis, one for Buns, and one for Bean. Tents around Meter Fox Hole, and for the 3 farmers sat outside in the tent eating their supper. Buggis had 3 boiled chicken, smoother than dumplings. Buns had 6 donuts filled with disgusting goose liver paste, and Bean had 2 gallons of cider. All 3 of them kept their guns beside there. Buggis picked up the steaming chickens and held out for the clothes in the fox hole. You can smell this, Mr. Fox, he shouted. Lovely tender chicken. Why don't you come out and get it? The rich scent of chicken dwarfed down to the tunnel. To there was the sick. The foxes were crouching. Oh, Dad, said one of the foxes, couldn't you see that we can sneak now and snatch it out with our hand? Don't you, dear? Said Mrs. Fox. That was what you get to do. But we are so hungry. They cried. How long will it be till to get something to eat? Their mother didn't answer them, nor did their father. There was no answer to give. The next day the watching and waiting, went on the barges and bounds and Bean sat up in small tool staring for the foxhole. They didn't talk much, and they just sat there for the guns in their laps. Every so often, and Mr. Fox would creep with the little closer toward the mouth, and in the tunnel, and they take for a sniff. Then he crept back and said, "They are still there. Are you quite sure?" said Mr. Fox. "Should ask Patev," said Mr. Fox. "I smell that man being for a mile away. He stinks." So the order went down to the farms, and that in the night 100 of the 8 men formed a tight ring about around the bottom of the hill. So they were armed with sticks and guns and hatchets and the pistols and all sorts of horrible weapons. There they made was the quite impossibility for fox or indeed for other animals to escape from the hill. Chapter 6. Mr. Fox had a plan for 3 days and 3 nights. Their waiting games went on. How long can the fox go out for food and water? Buggis asked on the 3rd day. Not much longer now, Bean told him. He'll need to make to run for it soon. We'll have to. Beans was right. Down to the tunnel in the foxes were slowly but surely starving to teeth. If only we could have a tiny sip of water and one more small foxes. Oh, Dad, can't I do something? Couldn't we make a dash for it, Dad? We have a hush, a little bit, a chance, wouldn't we? Not a chance at all, snapped Mrs. Fox. I refuse to let you further and face those guns. As long as you stay down here and died in peace. I suppose we could give it a try, he said. Let's go, Dad. Tell us what you got to do. Slowly, Mrs. Fox got to feet. She was suffering more than any of them in the lack of food and water. So this video I tell you about a book named Roald Fantastic Mr. Fox. Next video I tell you about a new chapter, 9 chapter. This video is till then. Goodbye everyone. Thank you for listening to my video. Good resting time. It's full of you. Goodbye.